Okay, test one, two. If anybody can hear me, please let me know my microphone is working. Had a little issue earlier. Thank you. All right, just approaching 7 o'clock on Thursdays. Thursdays are my evening for credit. So we spend time going over credit and how it relates to the mortgage industry, and more importantly, educating people on how to get some quick fixes and quick lifts in credit scores to qualify for some of the down payment assistance programs and grants that I help connect people with. So, for those of you that don't know me, my name is John Collins. Thank you for attending. I work with National Realty Centers, and I have a website or program called Own the Roof, where I educate people on the many different ways to purchase with no money down. So, I do another webinar on Wednesdays at 7 o'clock. And this webinar actually piggybacks that one. So the Wednesday webinar goes, I typically will go over all the different programs that are currently available on a national level. There are quite a few nationally. A lot of them are state specific, and an endless amount of grants and down payment assistance programs that are available on a municipal level. So if you have any interest there, please attend my webinar on Wednesdays. I'll have that link in the description. You can go to the website is nodownpaymentrequired.org. That's nodownpaymentrequired.org. So tonight we are going to focus on how to fix credit to qualify for a lot of the zero down no money down programs that I help connect people with and grants that are currently available. So with that being said, let's jump right in. Okay, so first, who is tonight designed for? It is designed for people who have credit scores currently in that, what I would say, 5 to 600 area. So if your credit score is in that mid 650s or 700 area, good for you. It just doesn't really benefit. The interest rates on the programs that I connect people with, once you get above 680, it just doesn't really help you much. You could have an 800 credit score, you're going to get the same interest rate as a 680 on some of the programs, or even a 600 score for some of the programs. So tonight, specifically designed for people who are in that 5 to 600 credit score range, and we're going to go over different ways that you can get a quick bounce in your credit score. Okay. Also, if you have no credit scores, you're going to find that there's going to be some tools here and things that we're going to talk about this evening that will help you establish credit and get you a quick bounce in your credit. Well, first of all, establish a credit score and get you a quick bounce. So, in addition, we're going to touch on some of the things that people have to wrestle with from serious credit issues, how to treat bankruptcies, repossessions, and more importantly, how to treat collections. I find that that's where a lot of misinformation comes in, is how to treat collections in the mortgage industry, and how, sometimes collections, you just don't want to pay them off. Okay. So otherwise, paying off a collection can adversely affect your credit in the short term. And we're going to go into a little deeper dive on that in a few minutes. And just anybody that wants a good understanding of the credit side of the mortgage world. Okay. Why do I do this? Well, I find that there's a lot of misinformation out there. And I find that the rental market, more importantly, in my opinion, is just in such a sad state right now. There has never been as big a shortage of rentals as what I'm experiencing right now. I've been doing this. I received my license back in 1987. So I've been doing this over 35 years. I've never seen a rental market as disheartening as what we're in right now. So as a result, I'm finding that a lot of the renters that I work with can actually purchase more successfully than even finding a rental with less money out of pocket. So a lot of the programs that I help people connect with, you can purchase with as little as $2,000-3,000 out of pocket. The other reason is I see a lot of people that if their credit scores are below 600, they are dramatically overpaying for credit right now. okay? And they're overpaying for credit repair. So I find that the credit repair world is somewhat opportunistic, and what they charge and what you get for what they charge is somewhat disheartening there too. So we're going to touch on that as well. So my goals for this evening, whoops, there we go. Sorry, I'm bouncing around here. Okay, my goals overall are to give people, if you have credit issues right now and your credit score is down, we're going to give you some tools and some things that you can implement right now to get a quick spike in your credit score. With what I'm going to show you this evening, it's going to be very easy to get your credit score up 60 points in 60 days. We're also going to help you identify areas on your credit report where you can get a quick impact by making some quick maneuvers. And also just going to give you some overall general help on how to add new credit. And everything that I'm going to share with this evening, we're going to give you some reasonable goals and predictable, successful timelines that you can adhere to. Okay? So with that being said, we're going to just jump right in. I always like to start off with understanding the mortgage industry and how credit applies to the mortgage industry. Now, in the mortgage world, there are actually more than 3 credit bureaus right now, but there are 3 big boys: TransUnion, Equifax, and Experian. And the mortgage world uses their credit scores. The algorithms that they use are the FICO 2, 3, 4, and 5. Okay. In the mortgage world, for the most part, they will pick the middle credit score. So my goal is always to get people's credit score 600 or above. Okay. I find that there are a handful of programs that will work with you to purchase with no money down as long as your credit score is above a 600. Okay. Now, the credit scores that they use, that FICO 2, 3, 4, and 5 scoring model, that is different than what you're going to see in some of the free sites like Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Experian. Those websites use an algorithm that is different. I find that the Credit Karma algorithm is about 20 points higher than what they're currently seeing in the mortgage industry. Okay. So again, they use the middle credit score. Okay. So most of the creditors out there are going to report to typically 1 or 2 of the credit bureaus. Okay. So our goal is to look at each credit bureau's report and isolate opportunities where we can get a quick spike in your credit score. And specifically, we want to focus on the credit bureaus with the middle score. And if your high score isn't up at 600, we want to focus on that too. So we want to focus on the 2 higher scores. The low score really does not matter. So if you have a credit score of 500, 600, and 650, they're going to take that 600 middle credit score. Now, I will tell you, it can be a game of inches. So sometimes I focus on the details because 1 point can make or break things. So when I give you an estimate with regards to how big or how much your credit score will lift from a certain action that I recommend, I'd like to build in a margin of error. So if we need to get your credit score up to a 600, I want to give you enough tools to get your score up to 620 to 630. So we're building in a margin of error there. Okay. All right. Next thing, what goes into a credit score in the mortgage world and overall for that matter? Right now, 35% of what goes into your credit score is determined by your payment history. Okay. Good payment history, higher score, obviously. The other thing that's payment history is something that typically can be worked on. Okay. Can be worked on easily. Okay. And what I mean by that is if you have isolated late payments with certain creditors, maybe an automobile creditor. I had some good success last week with Toyota, where a customer was able to get an isolated late payment removed. Sometimes you'll find some of the what they call preferred lenders, if you're with Ford Motor Credit, things like that, they may be a little bit more amiable to work with you if you have a late payment on your credit, provided it's an isolated incident. If you have 2 or 3 late payments, probably not going to have too much success there. So it can be worthwhile to call the creditors. Okay. I find retailers, Target, Macy's, retailers typically might be a little bit more flexible with removing isolated late payments as well. Okay. One thing I will tell you is if you do have collection accounts, please do not pay them off. Okay. And please hang on because we're going to go over that in a little bit. So, other thing I want to focus on is credit utilization. Credit utilization is where we're having the most success right now. Okay. Typically, I would tell people that have their credit cards maxed out, just pay your credit cards down to 30% of the available limit or lower, and you'll see a good 20, 30 point lift in your scores. I've had a couple of people that have actually paid their credit cards down to very low, maybe $10. I actually find that if you leave a slight balance, you're getting a higher lift than if you pay it down to zero. Okay, so please leave a little bit of a balance. I had someone actually last week that had a credit card maxed out that was at a $300 limit, maxed out at $300, and a $500 limit, maxed out at $500. She paid both of those down to $10. Her score shot up 100 points. Okay. And I had a few people that have experienced similar things over the past 30 days. Now, I have a small sampling. Okay. I only work with 20, 30 people at a time that I'm working with, restoring their credit and helping get their credit lifted to where it should be. With that being said, I don't have a big enough sampling to say that this is the way things are going, but the algorithms that generate credit scores are getting very smart. And the amount of artificial intelligence that's entering our life is changing the game dramatically. So I'm beginning to think in the market that we're in right now, where late payments and default rates on cars and late payments on credit cards is increasing at such an alarming rate, that the algorithms are giving people a much higher lift for paying down their credit cards. Okay. So I'm beginning to believe that some of these algorithms are actually almost in real time. Okay. So just my small world, like I said, but paying down credit cards is working better than I've ever experienced before. And like I said, I've been doing this quite some time. So credit utilization accounts for 30% of your overall credit score. So try to pay those down to not off to zero, but pay those balances down to $10 if at all possible. If not, try to get them down to at least 30% or lower. That tends to be at least the point of diminishing return. So get it down to 30% and you'll get the best bang for the buck. There is a lot to be said for length of credit history. Okay, please, if you are thinking of exercising or using one of these down payment assistance programs or grants that I help connect people with, or you're thinking of purchasing a home in the near future and you don't have a lot of credit, please do not close your accounts. Okay. And please do not pay off your loans. Okay. Paying off, if you have a thin credit profile and you pay off and close an account, your credit score is going to go down dramatically. If you have a few months left on a car payment and you pay that loan off early, you're losing a trade line. Your credit scores again can go down. So watch those trade lines. And more importantly, the length of credit history is something that really is playing in. Typically, it only accounts for 15%, but I'm finding that 15% is becoming a bigger portion of what we need to talk about. Okay. So anyways, those are the things that go in. There are a couple of other things. I just don't focus on those nearly as much. Credit diversity is another one. So the last thing, okay. Well, you know what? Let me go back here. Types of credit. So if you have credit, that's the credit diversity, and frequency of new credit. So the less frequent you pull new credit in, the higher your scores are going to go. Okay. How to handle student loans. Right now, most student loans are in forbearance due to COVID. They are going to be coming out very shortly, so please keep that in mind. That is called, so if they're in forbearance, you don't have to make any payments. There's no interest on them. Unfortunately, to get approved for some of the programs that I help connect people with, they have to be taken out of forbearance. Okay. So, and if your student loans are currently deferred because you're in school or possibly still taking classes, they have to be taken out. Okay? So we have to actually have payments on your student loans in order to get you approved for some of these programs or grants. Okay? Income-based repayment plans are absolutely fine. It used to be where they wouldn't take them, but they're becoming a lot more lenient on a lot of the down payment assistance programs and grants. Defaults are actually not as bad as they used to be, although they are dinging your credit scores quite hard for defaults right now. I'm finding that there are ways to work with those defaults to get them turned around in a very short period of time. So if you happen to have student loans that are in default, you can actually call typically the Department of Education and get those things, get those payments reestablished. You can actually get those put on an income-based repayment plan that might be $10 a month, $30 a month. Make those payments for 3 months, and they will flip that loan from showing as in default over to paid as agreed. The reason they're doing that is now you have gone from a loan in default to a performing loan that they can sell off to a servicer, and obviously you'll get the benefit of that. So I find that people that do that can see your scores swing dramatically because it's going to go from a negative to a positive. So I had someone last month that went from a 550. Once we got it turned over to paid as agreed after 3 months, their score just skyrocketed up to 650. Okay. The next thing I want to talk about, repossessions. If you have a repossession on your credit with a balance, if that balance is significant, we want to try to reestablish some type of payment history with them just to get you approved for the loan. Okay, what you do with that payment after you're approved for the loan, that's your business. No judgment there. There are a lot of people that have repossessions that are for cars that were lemons that were purchased, or they co-signed for someone. It's just really unfortunately bad situations. So I understand that, but my job is to get you approved for the down payment assistance programs and grants that I help connect people with. So that's how I tell people or coach them to deal with repossessions. If you want a personal conversation on that, please reach out to me. Happy to go over those with you. Bankruptcy is the next big one. If you have a Chapter 7 bankruptcy on your credit, we can't do anything till 2 years after the discharge date. It is important that you build credit as soon as possible. The nice thing is, once that bankruptcy is discharged, getting credit built is very easy. Typically, once it's discharged, you give me 6 months, I can have somebody have a credit score up in the 700s if they just follow the steps that I'm going to recommend. The other type of bankruptcy is Chapter 13. Chapter 7 is when you wipe the slate clean. 13 is when you reorganize your credit. Okay? You can actually purchase a house while you're in Chapter 13 bankruptcy. So as long as you've made 12 payments on time to the trustee, I've never had a situation where we were not able to get someone approved. I've had a trustee fight us before, but we ended up getting it done. Okay? So Chapter 13s, there are some options available. Now, the big one, collections. Please, if you have collections that are over 2 years old and they're less than a few $1,000s, please just leave them, okay? Many times they don't have to be paid off. If they're above a couple of $1,000s, we might be able to get those negotiated down, maybe get some payment arrangements, things like that. But if they're over 2 years old, please leave them. By paying them or activating them, the damage is already done. If you pay off those old collections, what's going to happen is they're going to show up on your credit report as collection paid and whatever today's date is. Your credit score will go down for probably 60 to 90 days. Then it'll start to drift back up again. Okay, so don't reactivate those collections by paying them. Just leave them there. What we'll do is we'll work on other ways to get your score up where it needs to be so it's approved, so we can get you approved for loan. Once we have you approved, that score gets locked in. If the lender asks you to go back and pay any miscellaneous collections off and your score goes down, it doesn't matter because your score is already locked in. Okay, so the other thing is medical collections. Just leave those alone, period. Okay, Fannie Mae came out. Fannie Mae is one of the government lending institutions. They came out a couple of weeks ago and said that they are not putting any weight on medical collections. So please just leave the medical bills alone that are on your credit report, and we can deal with those on a case by case. The only thing that I could see going forward that would be an issue is if you had some really big ones, $20,000, $30,000 medical collections. Those are things that are game changers that we have to have discussion about. But anything that's under a few $1,000s, just I wouldn't even worry about right now. Now, any collections that are 1 to 2 years old, we want to run those through a credit simulator just to see chances are what's going to happen in certain situations and how they're going to be addressed. Any collection accounts that you have that are less than a year old, we probably want to address those on a case-by-case basis. If it's just a couple of months old, those collections I would recommend paying off, because a new collection that's recently paid off, you can get a lift on your credit report. Okay, so those are the big ones: student loans, repossessions, bankruptcies, and collections, and how I would handle them. Okay, next thing I want to talk about is my step, how I go about helping people fix their credit. The first step is you need to get a copy of your credit report. Annualcreditreport.com will give you 3 credit reports. They will give you credit scores. You have to pay for them. Okay. I like using a service called Credit Hero. I am an affiliate of them. I'd be happy to send you a link for Credit Hero. The reason I like it, they only charge $1, and they will pull all 3 credit bureaus and give you a credit score. And it actually allows me to do a free credit audit for you. Okay. So if any of you are looking for some credit assistance with fixing your credit, I do free credit audits. Okay. All you have to do is, you'll see it in the description. Just reach out to me, schedule a call. We can send you a link where you can sign up for Credit Hero. They charge $1. We do the credit audit. You just have to cancel the service within 7 days. Otherwise, you just have to pay on a monthly basis. Okay. So we want to get all 3 credit reports, all 3 credit scores. We want to determine what is the middle and the high credit scores. Do we need to work on those? Do we need to get those above a 600? Okay. So focusing on the middle and the high credit scores. We want to understand your credit profile and what is driving your scores down. Is it late payments? Are they collections? Is it utilization? Things like that. So we want to analyze all your open trade lines and make sure that we can optimize them to make sure that we are getting the biggest lift on your score possible. Okay. We do need 2 to 3 trade lines. They don't have to be active. They can be old, new, and even alternative trade lines. And I'll talk about what those are shortly. So if you need to add new credit, there are a lot of ways to do it. Okay. Secured credit cards, secured loans. Being added as an authorized user is a great way to do it. You don't need a family member's credit card. You just need the credit juice that they've developed over time. Okay. So reaching out to parents, aunts, uncles, grandparents, and just having a candid conversation. Hey, you know what? I'm running a little bit short on my trade lines. To get approved for a 0 down grant or down payment assistance program, can you possibly add me as an authorized user on your account? I don't need a credit card. I don't need the credit card. I just need a little bit of help just getting my credit score up. Okay. So not as difficult a conversation as you'd think. Okay. And then the third thing is, if your score is low enough, it might be worthwhile sending out dispute letters, disputing some of those things on your credit. And we can help you on that side as well too. Okay. So those are the steps that I typically look at. The do's. Okay. When you are looking at credit, like I said, the things to do: subscribe to a credit monitoring service, Credit Karma, Credit Sesame, Experian. Okay. Those are all good places to subscribe to get a feel for where your credit is right now. The next thing to do if you have the ability to increase the credit on, and this is not easy right now, increasing the limits on credit cards, that is becoming harder and harder. And that's just because credit card default rates are skyrocketing. Okay. So trying to get credit card limits increased is very challenging. So for what that is let's say, for example, you had a $300 credit card with a $300 limit, and you called the creditor and said, hey, can you please increase my limit? If they increase that limit to $1,000, you're at 30%. You're sitting pretty good then. So the problem is that I don't know of any credit card companies in the market that we're in that are doing that. So, but may still be worth the ask. Now, please pay down your credit cards. If that's not an option, getting that increase, pay down your credit cards to $10 or just pay them down below 30%. Please do not pay them down to zero. Okay, zero. When you pay it down to zero, the scores are coming back just a couple of points lower than if you leave $10 on it. All right. The next thing, get added as an authorized user on someone's account that's been out for a while. We're looking, when we say that, we want to get you added to an accounts that have been around there 5 years, that have big credit limits on it and small balances. Okay. I had a young lady a couple months ago. She got added to, she went out to ask grandma if she can be added to one of her cards, and grandma put her on a Sears card. Didn't even know Sears was still out there. But this Sears card had a $20,000 limit, and she only owed a few $100s on it. So she still shops at Sears. So didn't even know you could do that. But I guess they have some online stuff still out there. So that maneuver, because that account was from 1976. So this account was over 50 years old. So she was able to get a credit score from 0 to 650 overnight. And then we were able to add a few alternative trade lines, and she was in business. So it worked out quite well. So don't underestimate the power of being added as an authorized user. A lot of people forget about that one. So the other option is opening up a secured card or a secured loan. Please, we want to do that as soon as possible to build some additional trade lines. I'll go over those in a minute. The next thing, we want to gather information. If we want to basically do alternative trade lines, and what an alternative trade line is, these are things that you pay on a monthly basis that just don't show up on your credit report, like rent, cell phone bills, car insurance, subscriptions, gym memberships, you name it. Things like that. If we can prove that you paid those on a monthly basis, we can get those added to your credit report to show a payment history. Okay. And the next thing that we want to do is, if you have any big collections, we might want to reach out to those creditors to talk about possibly coming up with some payment arrangements. That way you don't have to pay the big chunk. Okay. All right. The things not to do. Please do not apply for new credit unless we know we're going to get it. Okay. So when I say don't apply for new credit, don't apply for credit cards, don't apply for auto loans, things like that. What we would do is, when we apply for a secured loan, I know you're going to get that. Everybody gets those. A secured credit card, everybody gets those. Okay. Those are ones that I think are worthwhile applying for. Blindly applying for a credit that you think you're probably going to get denied for is not going to be worth it. It's just going to make it a bigger hill to climb for us. Don't blindly pay off your collection accounts. Like I said, 2 years old, leave it. We can negotiate those balances later. Less than 2 years, case by case. Medical collections, just please leave those alone. Any collections 1 to 2 years old, let's run those through a simulator for you so we can get a good idea of what the results are going to be once we pay those down. And anything that's 0 to say 6 months to 1 year old, we want to address those on a case by case. 6 months or less, we want to pay those off if at all possible. Okay. Other thing, please do not pay off those credit card balances. Like we said, don't pay them down to 0. Leave a little bit on there. Don't pay off any loans early. That could come back to haunt us. And don't become an authorized user on a new account or an account that has late payments. And please do not employ debt consolidation services. They are starting to surface in right now, the economy being the way that it is, debt consolidation services are starting to surface again. So those, if you do engage their services, it's just, they look at it just like you're going into bankruptcy. Okay. So probably not the wisest idea. I'd rather see people, if we're at a point where you need to employ a debt consolidation service, you need to seriously think about bankruptcy. Okay. It's a much less expensive, painless, easier way to go. Okay. So that's just my personal opinion, but please take my experience on that one. Now, what are some of the credit building tools that I like to work with? Okay. This is where we run into some of the things that will give you some of the biggest lifts out there. Secured credit cards. What are they? You give a creditor a deposit, $300, $500. They're going to give you a credit card with a $300 to $500 limit. Okay. It's important you use that card once you receive it. Okay. Don't charge more than 30% of the balance or whatever you give them. Try to keep that utilization below 30%. And once you get the bill, pay it down immediately, leaving a small balance. By doing this, you're going to find 30 to 60 days, you're going to get a 20 to 30 point lift in your credit. Okay. I find that some of the better ones to use are Discover Card, Capital One Secured MasterCard, and Open Sky Visa. These are good secured cards to work with. I actually like one through Michigan First Credit Union as well too. Okay. The next thing, secured loans. This is one of my favorite tools. Okay. What this is, and there are several variations out there. I'm going to give you the one that I like the best. I'm in southeastern Michigan. There's a credit union called Michigan First Credit Union. And I would encourage people, look in your own neck of the woods to try and find a credit union that offers something like this in your area. But what it is it's a secured loan. You give them $525. They charge $25 to do this, but they take $500 from you. They put it in a savings account and lock it down so you can't use it. But it's going to show it's there and it's your money. They're going to put a loan. They're going to give you a loan for $500. Plop that right in your checking account. Okay. Now, you can use that money. That's your $500 to use, but you need to pay off that loan that they just gave you over 6 months. So they're going to take $80-something a month out of your checking account to pay off that loan. The nice thing about this is once you pay off that loan, they're going to release the $500 in your savings account. But when they report this secured loan to the credit bureaus, it shows up as an unsecured personal line of credit, one of the hardest things to get. I'm finding people are getting credit score bounces anywhere between 40 to 60 points in 45 to 90 days. Okay. So a great, great tool. I had somebody last month whose score went up 70 points from using this tool. Okay. Just to keep in mind, personal lines of credit are one of the hardest things to get. And right now with the credit industry the way that it is, and the algorithms getting as smart as they are, I'm finding they're giving a bigger lift for some of the things that are harder to get like this. Okay. So secured personal loan. Next thing, authorized user. You know, we've talked about this a few times, but there is authorized users isn't 100% guaranteed. It works 90% of the time. The reason it doesn't work all the time is technically when you're added as an authorized user, it should show up on your credit report as beginning the date that it's issued to you. It doesn't always work that way. I find that a lot of the times the people that are adding you are phone jockeys and they're timed and they're just not, they just don't have that attention to detail, and they're giving you the open date that is actually for the original account. That's where a lot of that lift is coming from on the authorized user side. Okay, so make sure it's a good seasoned old account with a low balance, low utilization, and a good payment history. Okay, so authorized users. Alternative trade lines. Okay, we touched on this a little while ago, but I'm going to go over it again. Alternative trade lines. What they are just non-traditional lines of credit that just don't report to the 3 credit bureaus. So your rent, auto insurance, PO box payments, storage units, cable bills, cell phone bills, renter's insurance, monthly utility bills, subscriptions for like Netflix, gaming, gym memberships, things like that. These things, if you paid them on time for the past 12 months, we can have them added to your credit report as a trade line. So most people have a lot of these things paid out of their checking account every month. I mean, I don't know about you, but Netflix, gym memberships, those things are taken out automatically. So if I can prove that I've had those taken out of my checking account for 12 months, I've got 2 trade lines right there that I can take my bank statements, give them to a lender, they can have it added to my credit report. Okay. So those are the ways that we work to get additional trade lines added to your credit report to qualify for the down payment assistance programs and grants that I work with. Okay. The next thing, credit monitoring services. It is important that when you're going through this, that you have a good, reliable credit monitoring service. I recommend Credit Hero. I love working with them. It's very easy to see and understand their format, and it allows me to give you a free credit audit. Okay, so please reach out to me. I'll be happy to send you a link where you can register for Credit Hero for $1. They'll give you 3 credit bureaus and 3 credit scores. And we can do that free credit audit for you to get just so we know what we're getting into and figure out a game plan for you. Okay. There's also Experian. Experian gives you just the Experian credit score and the Experian credit report. Credit Karma uses Equifax and TransUnion and gives you their credit scores and credit reports. And then if you have a hard time with Credit Karma, there is Credit Sesame. That's one of their competitors. Sometimes people get locked out of Credit Karma and they're kind of tough to get back into. But it's important to engage the services of a credit monitoring service. If you're going to go to the effort to try and get your credit scores up in a short period of time, this is a small investment to make sure you're on the right trail, because they'll give you updates as soon as things are changed or fixed on your credit report. Okay. And then the last thing I want to cover, okay, credit restoration companies. Now, I'm not a huge fan of credit restoration companies. They do more of a set it and forget it type of thing. I understand what they do. They're going to fight for you. They're going to try to get every negative thing on your credit report removed. Okay. It's a marathon with them. I find that they charge a lot. I find that they're kind of like a one-trick pony. Okay. What they do is they are constantly fighting and trying to challenge those things on your credit report. But I find that, if you have a credit score at 500 after 6 months, people get up to about a 580 and it kind of stalls out. Okay. You're not going to get everything removed. Okay. But they'll keep charging you. I think 6 months of 6 months of the credit restoration services, in my opinion, is about enough. Any more than that, you're probably not going to get very far other than, paying them every month. So I think it's a 1-2 punch. I think if your scores are below a 520, these are a good space, and it's a possibility that these could work for you. But I also think you need to build credit at the same time. Okay. So if you build credit and you're able to get a few things knocked off, then yes, it's going to be a lot easier road to go. But just don't think that you're going to, just by wiping everything off your credit doesn't work. You need to build stuff at the same time, in my opinion. Okay. So for those reasons and the expense that they charge for these, I'm just not a huge fan of them. Okay. I do provide the same service, but complimentary for people that are on my program to purchase with no money down. So please do not hesitate to take me up on that. The first step is going to be do a free credit audit. Like I said, reach out to me. I'll have my contact information in the description where you can, I can send you a link to do a quick credit audit. Okay. And like I said, they only charge $1 for Credit Hero, which is the preferred site I like to work with. Now, where do we go from here? All right, here is my contact information. Now, I do webinars, like I said, on Wednesdays, how to purchase with no money down. I typically will do a top 10 programs that I like to work with, what it takes to get approved, what credit score requirements they have, what are the income requirements, and more importantly, how much money does it require to get into a house with no money down? I will tell you, one of the things that I tell people, if we really need to sharpen the pencil, and it happens at least once a month, 1%. So if you want to buy a $150,000 house, your payments are coming in at about $1,200. And if we have to sharpen the pencil, you can do it with $1,200 out of pocket on the zero down grants and assistance programs that I help connect people with. Okay. It's all about how we structure the deal. Okay. So that's on Wednesdays, 7 o'clock. I'll give you that link in just a minute. Thursdays, every other Thursday, I do a much more comprehensive webinar than we did tonight. Okay. Really taking a deep dive on the credit reports and how to fix them. Okay. So those are on Thursday. Whoops. Wrong one there. Okay. So the next step, schedule with me. Okay. Reach out to me. Here is my contact information. My email, you can reach me, john@owntheroof.com. You can schedule a call directly. Here is a link to my calendar. Okay. Take a snapshot of this slide if you could, or screenshot if you're watching on your phone. To schedule a call, you can go to nodownpaymentrequired.org/book. That's a direct link to my calendar. You can schedule a call. I'll call you right at that time. Or feel free to call me directly. My number, 248-252-7283. Again, that's 248-252-7283. I will be the first one to admit I am a phone jockey. I spend a tremendous amount of time on the phone. If I don't answer, please leave a message and I will call you back. Okay. Now, for the weekly webinars on Wednesdays, I do my top ways to purchase with no money down. So my top zero down programs, they are down payment assistance programs and grants that help people get into houses with just a few $1,000s out of pocket. Thursdays at 7 o'clock. That's when I do my credit building webinars. Okay, so you can register for those at credit.nodownpaymentrequired.org. And for my Wednesday webinars, it's actually just nodownpaymentrequired.org. So anyways, thank you very much for watching my webinar this evening. If you saw some value, please hit that like button. Consider subscribing to my channels. Hit the alert button and you'll be notified as soon as we upload any new content. All right. Thank you for watching and have a good evening.